What kind of man wields power in a land like this? Death is the only punishment here.
Shogun has been adapted before into a TV series that was a massive success, in addition to the book by James Clavell that many consider it a classic. The FX adaptation has some big shoes to fill, so does it do justice to the book? In this episode, we look at the first 7 parts of the Shogun series on FX, exploring the historical backdrop of Clavell's novel and evaluating how effectively the 1,000 plus pages have been condensed for television. James Clavell was an Australian-born British writer, director and novelist. He was born in 1921 and died in September 1994, aged 73. He was the son of a Royal Navy commander. He joined the Royal Artillery in 1940 at the onset of World War II and was sent to Singapore to fight the Japanese after the Pearl Harbor attack. His ship was sunk on his way to Singapore and he was captured in 1942 and sent to the prisoner of war camp in Java in Indonesia, which was at the time part of Japan. Later, he was transferred to Changi prison in Singapore, where he spent 3 years living on 110 grams of rice per day and 1 egg a week, if he was lucky. That's how harsh the conditions were there. In 1954, James moved to New York and tried his hand at screenwriting while doing some carpenting to pay the bills. After a few successful screenplays turned into films, he wrote his very first book, King Rat, which was published in 1962 and turned into a film in 1965. This book is based on his experience in the prisoner camp in Indonesia and was the very first book in his Asian saga, which is a collection of 6 books based in Japan and Iran in various times in history from the 1600s to the 1900s. The third book in the series is Shogun. Shogun, published in 1975, became an instant hit, selling over 15 million copies by 1990 and serving as a cultural gateway to Japanese history. Despite some historical inaccuracies, it vividly portrays Japanese life, customs, and societal norms of the Sengoku period through the adventures of John Blackthorne, an English navigator caught in a power struggle between influential Japanese families. It is loosely based on the historical exploits of William Adams, an English navigator who in the 1600s was the very first Englishman to reach Japan. Adams and his second mate, Jan Houston, both settled in Japan and became Western samurai, recognized as the most influential foreigners in Japan during their lifetimes. In the series, however, we follow equally 2 narratives. The life of navigator John as his ship is blown ashore the Japanese coast, landing him in the middle of a power struggle between 2 families that are very influential in Japan. This intense power struggle between the 2 most powerful daimyos, which were like feudal lords in the 16th century, is the second gripping narrative, actually, and provides a rich description of the political, societal, and cultural norms of the 1600 Japan.
I've learned one truth, that enemies are everywhere and friends nowhere.
Before we jump into the TV adaptation, let's have a quick look at where the world was before John first set foot on Japanese land. The 16th century was a period of significant economic, political, and cultural shifts worldwide. Mercantilism was the prevailing economic theory at the time, which meant exporting more than importing and accumulating precious metals. Portugal had significant power early on by taking the lead in global exploration and setting up trading ports and colonies in Africa, Asia, and Brazil. Its influence began to wane as the Dutch and English empires started growing. Spain was another world power, largely due to its vast colonial empire in the Americas, from which it mined huge quantities of silver and gold and helped its military campaigns around the world and Europe. The Netherlands pioneered financial innovations such as the central bank and stock exchange and had one of the largest merchant fleets in the world, dominating global trade in spices and textile via their Dutch East and West India companies. China, under the Qing dynasty, was a major power, but mainly due to its large population, advanced agricultural techniques, and manufacturing capabilities. However, due to its self-imposed isolationist policies, its influence in the global trade was limited because they were focusing more on internal markets instead of international. And finally, England, an up-and-coming power at this time, was doing what Portugal did in the beginning, establishing its own overseas colonies and trading posts and competing directly with the Dutch and Spanish empires. So where is Japan in all of this? Well, Japan was in a continuous state of war during the Sengoku period, also known as the Warring States period. This era was marked by constant internal military conflict as various feudal lords battled for power, land, and influence. However, it wasn't entirely negative. These lords supported the arts as a means of both cultural enrichment and social status enhancement. The famous tea ceremony, the ink painting, and no theatre all flourished during this period. But at the same time, Portuguese traders introduced firearms, specifically matchlock guns, which fundamentally altered the nature of the warfare. As expected, the powerful lords showed great interest in this new technology, which they quickly adapted and produced on a large scale. Another significant novelty introduced via the trading routes was Christianity. Francis Xavier, a Spanish Catholic missionary and representative of the Portuguese Empire at the time, led the first Christian mission to Japan in 1549. The exclusivist nature of Catholicism made this no easy task, but Xavier and his assistants were the sole missionaries in Asia for over 45 years. The divisive political environment of Japan at the time fueled the adoption of Catholicism, and some of the daimyos were converting and encouraging their subjects to do the same. So to summarize, before the story of Shogun begins, we have the powers of the world vying to grow in new exotic lands while attempting to usurp the established trading ports. Inside Japan, a council of regents formed of 5 influential lords ruled the country with the purpose of maintaining governance until the heir of the deceased Taiko, Japan's supreme leader, came of age. So with so many egos involved and a background of civil unrest, John Blackthorne is set to bring more twists, considering his ship is not only holding trading goods, but also a new powerful weapon, cannons. Let's look at the FX adaptation next.
I have not told you my family name, but it is well known in Japan. Many years ago, a great injustice stole everything from me.
Because of the source material being such a culturally important work, there were many difficult conversations in regards to the approach of the adaptation, and finally in 2018, FX ordered the project to be made into a miniseries. With the pandemic in the way, it landed on the small screen 4 years later in February 2024. In a panel interview with the producers and actors, and I will leave a link in the description, producers Eriko Miyagawa and Hiroyuki Sanada explained the main polishes done to the script for the series.
It's written, and then I think it goes through usually to Frederick Kreins, who is our head researcher. Oftentimes it goes to Hiro, maybe myself, and then it goes to a team of translators in Tokyo. And then after that it goes to playwright Kyoko Moriaki, who specializes in period style Japanese, and she polishes all the dialogues so that it would feel like the right time period.
Right.
That comes back to us, and then we do our own polish, and Anna would have her own notes and the way she wants to say, and many actors did. So we do our final polish. We kept polishing until we rolled.
Yeah, even same meaning, we have a lot of way to say, so have to be matching for each character, each situation. So we discussed a lot which word is correct. Is that too classic, hard to understand? Okay, make easier, or mixing. So we took the best balance on set every day.
良いお日和でございます、八重千代様。
あれは人食い族なのか、通じ。偉人の中には人を食うものがおると虎長が言うとった。
私にも分かりません若君。とはいえ念のため、あまり近づかぬよう用心いたしましょう。
The series introduces us to 16th century Japan through the eyes of John Blackthorne, portrayed this time by Cosmo Jarvis, which is a far grittier rendition than the one played by Richard Chamberlain's in the 1980s series. In this adaptation, we quickly move beyond Blackthorne to meet other key figures of the era, including the members of the Council of Regents who oversee the country. Among them is the influential Lord Toranaga, played by Hiroyuki Sanada, who is also a producer, and his influence raises concerns within the council. The care for the detail of this foreign new world is visible from the very first moment when John encounters the Japanese people. The costumes, the sets, the cinematography are just simply stunning, and it immediately immerses you in this breathtaking world. This is always hard to achieve in productions that are either historical, sci-fi, or fantasy. Here are the producers again speaking about the authenticity of the show.
The commitment to authenticity is something that's really stood out. I think from FX to Justin, Rachel, to wonderful cast and crew, I think everybody was fully committed and sort of ready to do the hard work, because it is hard work, especially when it comes to Japanese period show.
Luckily, we could hire the specialist for jidaigeki, samurai drama or movies, professionals, including master of the gesture. It's one of the hardest part, especially for the young actors. How to wearing kimono, how to walk, how to sit, how to open the shoji screen.
How to hold a chopstick.
Yeah.
From the onset, the series makes it clear that its focus is on the intricate political maneuverings as opposed to the romantic elements emphasized in the 1980s adaptation. These political machinations reminded me of the House of Cards series on Netflix, with the gripping and interesting parts being the power plays more than the gore of the action sequences. There are scenes where a subtext-heavy conversation between two characters is much more powerful and fun to watch than a full battle sequence. Not that the battle sequences are not enjoyable, they are certainly gripping and realistic, hence the 18+ rating of the show. The passion and care for the historical accuracy is in full display in the battle scenes, with the mud, the blood, the chopped off limbs and broken bones in full display. This approach is not a bad thing, as the historical period of Japan in itself is full of twists and backstabbings, enough to justify plenty of episodes without any emotional drama. However, it is a bit disappointing that the relationship between John and Lady Mariko is not explored more. The actors inhabiting these two characters are impressive and never seem to have enough time to develop and iron out their religious and cultural differences. Lord Toranaga, on the other side, has plenty of screen time, and deservedly so. Played with finesse by Hiroyuki Sanada, the character needs to constantly compromise to ensure the longevity of his bloodline, while at the same time countering attempts on his life, navigating religious plays, and parenting a headstrong and naive son. All these emotional layers are expertly acted by Sanada, making him a joy to watch in every scene. It's like watching a Japanese version of Anthony Hopkins. In my opinion, this series is an absolute gem. It shines through via the focused approach of telling a story from both angles, detailing the world and Japanese traditions with finesse and allowing drama to shine through. Yes, the book is extensive and it is renowned for its detailed explanation of the culture and traditions of Japan, but even with restrictions of time and budget, the show does an excellent job by deep diving into the details of the era and presenting them as accurate as possible. With the addition of top quality actors, music and video effects in the right dose, it is shaping up to be one of the best series of the year. Does it do justice to the book? I think it does, based on the level of detail and enthusiasm of the creators. Considering the book is over 1100 pages, there's no way to fit in all the character arcs and all the details in 10 hours, so compromises had to be done, such as less focus on John and Lady Mariko's relationship or the Christianity's impact on Japan that we see in the books. It could have gone wrong so easily by making it a soap opera set in this troubled time in Japan, but luckily it doesn't fall into that trap. Instead, the drama comes through the characters' struggles with the pressures of rigid societal norms, tarnished bloodlines, and the gravitational pull of fate. Again, no film adaptation will be better than the book because of real-life constraints of producing a TV series, and no director can outdo the reader's imagination. However, when an adaptation prompts viewers to read the original book, it has succeeded in doing justice to that work. I'm eagerly anticipating the end of the show and have high confidence that it will continue to be gripping, well-balanced, and faithful to the historical era. But what are your thoughts? Are you enjoying the series so far? And what would you like to see more? Let me know in the comments. And if you have time to see some thoughts on another huge adaptation, stick around for my review of the sci-fi epic Three Body Problem. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, I shall leave you in peace.